Hello, everyone. Justin B. Jenkins here from the Quintessential Gentleman, and I'm here today with actor Nick Creegan. What's going
Hey,
on, man?
what's going on, Justin? How are you, man?
I'm, living the life, living the life. How are you?
I'm good. I can't complain. The sun is shining. I'm in New York right now. The sun is shining. Spring is finally here. I'm feeling good.
Yeah, spring is here in New York City. It's so interesting. So I met you right before the pandemic. I don't know if you remember in Brooklyn with
Yeah, yeah.
yep,
At the podcast.
yep, exactly. And
Yeah.
that's when you were crushing it on David Makes Man. So how have you been during this pandemic and kind of just staying sane and, doing what you have to do?
Well, Justin, to be honest with you, the pandemic for me has been, obviously there's a low point in everybody's life, being that people were getting sick, people were losing lives, but also what I noticed was I needed that downtime and I needed that personal time to myself. I needed to be able to pour into myself in terms of meditation, working out. I got back into cooking. I love cooking, so I got back into cooking. I had a lot of time to focus on me, and I needed that, especially to refuel myself for
Yeah,
the pilot season of this year, which is the season that I booked Law and Order Organized Crime. So
right.
2020 for me was a lot about self-reflection and
Yeah,
just fueling, the positivity for 2021.
right. That's amazing. You have that outlook. Not too many people have that outlook, so that's great. Now, before we get into Law and Order, you started your career in journalism.
Yes, yeah.
So what was it about acting that caught your eye?
Well, I had always been, a performer. I'm always the guy at family functions who's ever since I was a kid that entertaining everybody. I love to make people laugh. I love to make people feel good. I'm a master communicator. I'd like to say I love to just speak to people. So, that's why I went into journalism at first because I always had a passion for speaking to people. And when I was young, my grandmother and my mom would be watching the news, like with Peter Jennings and Barbara Walters. I'd see Barbara Walters interviewing people like Saddam Hussein, and she would
Yeah.
get them to laugh. And I'm like, I feel like I could do that. So I want to get into journalism. But with acting, I actually was in high school, and one of my mentors, and who is currently my acting coach as well, Nico Anand, he's the star. You might know him as Uncle Clifford on P
Okay.
Valley.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was actually at my school district. He was in charge of the arts department at my school district. And he saw me one day and he was like, I want you to be in my short film. And I'm like, I don't act. I'm not trying to like I'm trying to make this money after school. I'm working at Party City actually at the
Right.
time. And I'm like, nah, I'm busy. But I ended up doing the short film with him. And I was like, you know what, this is actually pretty fun. I couldn't see myself doing this as a career path because who do I know that's a paid actor?
Right.
But yeah, I had always had that little bug inside of me that loved to act. So that's where it started. And when I went to college, I did some theater projects. And out of school, even when I was a journalist, I was hosting a show at the time called 2 Point Lead back in 2015. And the show was a satirical sports show. So we would bring in athletes to do acting skits and sketches with us. And ever since then, I was like, you know what? I got to incorporate this in my life somehow. So I used Instagram as my tool to kind of do these different characters and have
Right.
my own little skits,
Right.
one of which went viral, and then David Makes Man happened, etc.
Exactly. That's what I was going to ask you next because what was the skit? Because a lot of people might not know you got an audition. Because I
Yeah.
was like, I know he was like you were. I know I followed you, but you were in like during the Vine days. So I was like, well, what was the skit that gets someone an audition? Because now you see a lot of the like people are becoming from Vine or becoming actors.
Right.
I feel like you were like one of the first, like a good 2 or 3 skits, and you were in.
Yeah, it's funny. One thing that happened, I'm big on manifestation, and I'm big on, putting out there in the universe what you want. So I was having a conversation one day with one of my friends. Actually, we were doing a podcast, and I was like, yo, Issa Rae needs like, she needs a new love interest because at the time I was like, Lawrence ain't doing it. She had the chocolate brother. So like, let's bring in like a light skinned chocolate interest for her. So I pitched myself on Twitter as Issa Rae's love interest. And I used the Jamaican accent. I was like, she could have a light skinned Jamaican
Okay.
love interest. So I put on my accent and then I basically called her out and was like, Issa, um, Me want to chat, me want to get to know you, blah, blah,
Right.
blah. And she actually saw it, and her and Yvonne Orji liked it. And I was like, oh shoot, okay. Like they saw this. Man, should I start doing a little more of this Jamaican accent? I think people enjoy this. And one day my brother actually asked me to buy him some oxtail at this restaurant, and I did. And the lady at the restaurant knew me. She gave me a whole tub of gravy, oxtail gravy. And I don't know if you've had oxtail, but the gravy is very coveted, and it's hard to get free gravy.
Right.
So when she gave me that whole thing, I was like, wow, this is hilarious. I feel like I should make a video about it. I made a video about oxtail gravy back in 2018, and somehow, some way, Terrell McCraney's team and Oprah's team saw that video, and they were like, let's see if this dude acts. Like, let's get him to audition for David Makes Man. And at the time, Carmen Cuba Casting reached out to me on DM and was just like, hey, do you want to audition for this show? Oprah's producing it. Michael B. Jordan's producing it. I'm like, what?
Did
So
you
I
believe it
did.
right away?
Sorry?
Did you believe it right away?
No, I thought it was a scam.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Like, I've never heard of that before. Somebody reaching out over it wasn't even Instagram DM. It was on Facebook. I guess they had trouble finding me, so they went on Facebook, and I just happened to be checking my Facebook messages that night because I really wasn't on Facebook like that.
Right.
And I saw that at around 1 a.m, and I'm like, nah, this can't be true. But then I read everything, and I was like, okay, so I guess I gotta get an acting coach for the weekend and
Right.
really dive in and audition.
That's amazing. Now, some people may say, like, oh, you're so lucky, but I call it like preparation, right? So, what was that preparation like for you?
Well, the thing for me is, I did have imposter syndrome when I first started that role. I felt like, damn, should I even be here? I have friends that went to, the Yale School of Drama in these places, and they hadn't had a recurring role with such a major part like Desmond and David Makes Man. But one of my co-stars on set, Ade Chike Tolbert, he actually told me, he was like, you belong here, dude. Like, you auditioned for this. It's not like it was handed to you. Like, you had to audition just like everybody else that was in the running, and you were the best choice possible. So that kind of like boosted me up, and I realized that, you know, you may feel like you're not worthy of something, but God is going to be the one to kind of lift you up and place you there. So yeah, I just kind of accepted the fact that that was a blessing for me. And after that, I started acting coaching, started going to Ted Slubersky studios. Nico Anand was one of my coaches. Lee Colston, he actually started my coaching with that David Makes Man role. And I mean, he went to Juilliard, and all these other people are like very prominent in the acting world. So it's not like I was just, toying around on Instagram. I really took it seriously after I got that role. So yeah, I've been in coaching, and I used 2020 to really heavily dive into that. And I spent most of my time practicing. I would just film self tapes and have them critiqued. And when the Law and Order organized crime audition came around, I was just ready. And
Yeah.
I saw the script, and I was like, nah, this was written for me. I'm getting this.
That is amazing. Another
Yeah.
thing that you're doing that I love, you create your own opportunities, right? You had your short film, A Balcony in Brooklyn, which is such a
Yeah.
great vibe. You're starting your production company, Broken Whip Media. Why is it important for you to still create these opportunities? Because some might say, well, your foot's in the door already.
Well, the thing that I think all artists need to realize is that we have the ability right now to create our own situations. I mean, even if you're not an artist, even if you're a journalist, the fact that you're able to have your company and interview me, it says it all. Like, you weren't waiting for People Magazine or somebody to give you an opportunity. You made your own opportunity, and you decided to, you know, make that happen. So I feel like we all need to realize that we have the tools in our hands right now to make things happen. And I don't ever want to be the type of person waiting on an opportunity to happen. When I met with my boy Kwame Onuachi, who's a James Beard award-winning chef, and one of my best friends from college, Nana Kwame. It's funny, they have the same kind of name, but Nana is a New York Times best-selling author, and we came together at a party, and we were just like, yo, we're all doing our thing in our respective fields. We all have been in the situation where we've been a part of an idea that somebody else had, and they might have chose to go a different direction after we thought we were going to get that opportunity. So why not start our own company and give people a platform to have their content seen and heard? And that's what we decided to do, because I feel like as Black creators, it's important to realize that right now our voice matters, and we can take that power in our own hands and create our own stuff. And we've been sitting at the table with very dope studios and platforms that want to have our content on there, and we're gonna have a lot of cool stuff coming for you guys within the next few months.
Yeah. So talk to me about a balcony in Brooklyn. How did that come about?
Balcony in Brooklyn came about because my roommate and I were sitting at home. It was July of 2020, peak quarantine.
Yeah.
We're watching Childish Gambino's or Donald Glover's movie, Clapping for the Wrong Reasons. And in Clapping for the Wrong Reasons, it was just a very interesting kind of sci-fi weird vibe. Like, you didn't know if it was a dream, you didn't know if it was real life. There was a lot of weird stuff happening because Donald Glover's just a creative genius. And it's funny because a lot of Black young creators aren't necessarily creating content like that. We're expected to create some type of other content, and he was just diving into a whole different realm. And I was like, this sounds like something we should be doing. What can we do peak quarantine, like, that has to do with what's going on in our worlds, and show people what it's like to be Black, young, creative in the world of quarantine? So we decided to work with our friend Dennis Williams on this script, and we created it. It's a movie, it's a short film about a guy named Nick who moves into an apartment, and he wakes up in the middle of quarantine that's happening in 2024. So, like, fast forward a few years, quarantine is still in existence. Yeah. Protests are still happening outside.
I missed that part.
Yeah, he's basically like, why is there a party in my house right now? I just moved in here and my roommate's throwing an underground house party. He didn't even ask me if I'd be cool with this. And you see Nick kind of navigate through the house looking for his roommate, Glad. And it's just a really fun, interesting film.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think you guys should make it a series or like something like that.
That's also in the works too.
There you go. So what is your hope that Broken Whip Media can become?
My hope for Broken Whip Media is that it serves as a production company that gives a voice to the underheard communities, whether it be women, whether it be the Black trans community, whether it be people of color, period, that just want to create but don't necessarily have their seat at the table because for whatever reason they haven't done anything popping enough to be heard. Right. So we know people that have great ideas that just aren't able to get in contact with the people to give them that money to do those things. Right. We have the contacts. We want to be that door to get them to that place. So we're going to be creating content with other creators, and we're also going to be creating our own content, from unscripted hosting, travel, entertainment style shows to scripted dramas and comedies. So I look at Broken Whip Media as being in the same vein one day as Hooray Entertainment by Issa Rae or Macro Entertainment. So we're just three Black dudes that are doing pretty well in our respective fields, and we decided to make sure that we can make a splash in the media entertainment industry.
I love that. Best of luck with that. Now, you are in probably one of the most anticipated, biggest spin-offs of a most popular show ever to come out.
Yeah, it's crazy.
2 hours, April 1st. Benson and Stabler are back again.
They are.
We're going to be a reoccurring role in Law and Order Organized Crime. How is that feeling?
It feels really good.
Yeah.
It's a culmination of a lot of low points where I didn't think, it would ever happen. Honestly, like, there were times where I was wondering, like, did I really make the right choice to quit the corporate world and focus on this career path when I really didn't have the traditional path of past actors who I admire? But I realized that everybody makes their own path, and it just feels really awesome to be in the same conversation and same episodes and shows with people like Dylan McDermott, who plays Richard Wheatley, who's my father in the series.
Okay.
Chris Maloney, who's playing Stabler. That's going to be an amazing experience to see him back on screen. So yeah, I'm very excited. The show's going to be great. I can't wait for everybody to tune in.
So tell us about the show and your character.
Well, I can't say much,
Okay.
but I will say that the beautiful thing about organized crime is that fans will be able to follow storylines a lot more closely than in past Law and Order series. You know, Usually it's just focused on the police officers and
Mhm.
everybody in the law enforcement agency, but there are going to be other characters that people get to pay attention to throughout the season. So I'm very excited about that. And Richie Wheatley Jr., that's who I play. He's a very interesting dude. He he loves to dress really good. I don't know if you guys have seen some of the promo photos from
Oh yeah.
set, but he got his clothing together for sure. Let's just see, what else he has together or not together.
Awesome, awesome. Now, were you a big fan of SVU? And I'm talking about like watch the marathons in USA. You still gasp every
Oh,
time, like a no.
no, I was not. I'll
Oh
be
man.
honest, like the first time I really dove into SVU was after I did my audition. When I found out that there was some interest, then I said, okay, let me actually sit down and see what this show is really about.
Okay.
And I binge watched a few episodes. I basically Googled the best episodes ever of Law and Order SVU. One of my favorite ones was when Robin Williams actually was a guest star, and he got nominated for an Emmy for that episode. That
Yes.
was really cool. So yeah, SVU was super entertaining for me to watch, and it just made me that more excited to be able to be a part of their next spinoff series. And it's been 10 years since Elliot Stabler hasn't been
Mhm.
on that screen with Benson. So it's going to be very cool to watch.
Now, when you booked the role, was there a lot of like friends and family who were super excited for you just because of like the SVU like
Oh, absolutely. My uncle, that's his favorite show
oh
of
nice.
all time.
Yeah.
That's the reason why I really knew who Stabler and Benson even were before I auditioned, because
Gotcha.
that's literally the only thing he watches. And there's an interesting connection here for me because my cousin, who is like a brother to me, like a younger brother, he passed away in 2018.
Mhm.
And basically, his name is Dylan, Dyan, and he passed away on April 1st. And
Wow.
his father and him used to watch Law and Order SVU together. Like that was their favorite show to watch together.
Yeah.
Come to find out, I get the show. My father in the show, his name is Dylan, spelled the same way. The
Yeah.
show premieres April 1st.
Yeah.
It's kind of like it almost feels like a weird connection for me, and it's almost like an ode to my cousin
Yeah.
who is no longer with us in this physical form, but I have a feeling he's still around.
Yeah.
And this was a special moment for me. So I even shared that with Dylan McDermott on set, and I told him, and he was like, wow, man, sometimes the universe or God will show you that you're in the right position and you're on your right path because of you just paying attention.
Yeah. Well, that was, that's interesting. Now, what have you learned yourself as an actor taking on this role or even just kind of stepping out and doing the audition and kind of pushing through? What have you learned about yourself?
That's an interesting question. That's a good one.
Gotcha. Nah.
I've learned that I've put in the work. I definitely have put in the work. I mean, the notes I've been getting from directors that I've worked with so far and people on set is nothing short of what I've expected myself to be able to do. It's kind of validating for myself to know that I can come in and work with such heavy hitters and feel confident and comfortable on set. Um, and I've also learned, you really just have to trust the process. Nothing happens before it's supposed to. And even if you're at a low point, where I've faced many low points, even though I was having a great quarantine, there were times where I was not sure how I'm going to pay rent because I was not working. So, uh, you know, it, it, it really is important to continue to believe in your passion and continue to push yourself no matter what until the wheels fall off, because the wheels I feel like people usually give up way before the wheels even get close to falling off. And if you pay attention to certain artists that you love, their stories, some of them were living in their cars, some of them were couch surfing or whatever they had to do to make ends meet. and then they're nominated for Oscars. They're doing their thing. They have their own shows, their own production companies. So I just really noticed that I'm not a quitter, and there's nothing that can make me stop chasing what I'm going to chase.
I love that. So my final question is: you've clearly showed that there's power in leaning into your purpose. What advice would you give to others to do the same?
Uh, the one thing that I think is unique to my story, and I'm sure other people have been here before, but I was working a full-time corporate job a couple of years ago, making six figures and doing well. I got laid off after this is after David Makes Man, and I had known to myself that I should quit my job and focus on my true passion, but I was afraid to let go of the steady income and the security that really wasn't there because I got laid off anyway. I would say that if you're working a full-time corporate job and you have a passion that you want to fuel, don't allow that corporate job to take your life over to the point where you don't dedicate any time to that passion. You should not be more loyal to any company than yourself, because at the end of the day, if it's not your company, you're just a number.
Yeah.
And even if you're putting in hard work, there are times where people have to cut fat in their companies, and you could be one of the pieces of fat that get cut. So don't ever think that you need to be overly loyal to any corporate entity.
Yeah.
And just make sure you fuel your passion at the end of the day, because happiness is more important than any type of 9 to 5 security that you think you may have.
Yeah. Well, thanks for those gems. Thanks for chatting today. I'm so happy for you. I can't wait to see you on April 1st.
Thanks a lot, Justin. I
Law and
appreciate it.
Order, organized crime. So I'll see you. Good luck.
All right. Peace, man. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick.